And once I've talked and talked and talked about it for what it seems to be like a half an hour, now I want you to take a look at the resource that I provided in the README. So notice here we have Create React App Proxy, and this is the documentation for it. And then this is going to be the code. So let me navigate there, and then I'm just going to basically explain what's happening. And once you get here, I strongly suggest reading the first, 3 paragraphs. Yeah, I think 3 is going to be more enough, where they explain everything in great detail. I just want to mention 2 things. First, once we add this in package.json, the proxy, and then our own server URL, which in our case is going to be 5,000, on our front-end application, we'll be able to go with fetch or Axios in our case, since we'll install Axios, and then /, and then whatever is the endpoint. Like I said, whether that's auth, whether that's jobs, and hopefully you get the gist. That's point number 1. And then second, this only works in development. So if you have a situation where your front-end React application is going to be hosted separately from your server, which is the case, these are the questions that I'm getting in my Node course, for example. You need to keep in mind then this setup is not going to be affecting that. So you'll have to figure out how to do that from your own hosting provider. This is not going to be the case. This is only in development. Again, in our case, we'll build them as static assets at the end of the day anyway. So we'll fix that issue this way, and it's going to be hosted on the same server. But if you don't have that situation, this only works in development. And this is very, very important. And therefore, I am being annoying and repeating that. So let's finally set this up, where I want to go back to my server first. And like I said, this was just to showcase some stuff. So I'll remove the course here, and I'll remove the course over here as well. Then I want to navigate to my client package.json. Extremely important. Please do not set this up on the server. And I'm going to go here. So these are my React commands, so I know that I'm in the proper place. And now we want to go with proxy, and then we want to provide the URL. Now, in my case, I remove the trailing slash. If you want, you can add that, but you'll have to remember that pretty much every time you set this up. So let me go to my dashboard here, and I'll grab this one over here. So the localhost 5,000. Let's actually cut this out. We won't need it. And then let's go back to the proxy, copy and paste, and let's remove the /. Now, also one thing to keep in mind, and actually I have to add that here, is the fact that we need to restart everything. So let's go here with a restart, and then I'm just going to say app. So you know that we're actually restarting the concurrently. So stop it over here. Let's go with npm start. And then where I have the dashboard, I simply want to go with /. That's it. That's all we have to do. We want to save it. And now you'll notice that not only I can successfully access the data without that annoying course error, I can also skip the entire localhost 5,000 part. And technically everything works. But there's another error. And I specifically wanted to discuss this error because it's something that I think that you should be aware of. Where when we set up the proxy, we are talking about the fallback. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, notice over here how we're just looking for the /, correct? But when we're talking about the /, actually that is going to be our own index.html. This is why we get this weird bug here. Unexpected token, blah, 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 blah. And if you want a console log, you'll see the response. So essentially, there is a successful response. This is just that I'm trying to convert this into a JSON. Now, where I'm going with this, back on the server, instead of just having this / and then dummy route, I might leave this one just in case. So maybe there's a time when I want to showcase something in the browser. Again, we can always remove those suckers later. But for time being, I'm just going to go with API and then version 1. Why? Well, because all our APIs are going to start like this. We're going to go with API version 1. And let's just say here API. And now what's going to happen back on the dashboard, if I add here API and then version 1, you'll notice that everything works. So now we can clearly see the API. So essentially, this is treated as a fallback. So if you don't have that resource on your React server, then it's just going to be like, okay, so I have this proxy, I have this localhost 5000. Let me go and take a look at over there. Now, if I'll add here something like random, then I should get back the error because there is no resource, correct? So we get back 404. That's a start. And then the second one, we get this JSON error because we're not able to convert this into a JSON. I know that this was somewhat long video probably for setting up the proxy, but in my opinion, it's very important that you understand these nitty-gritty details because in my opinion, it will help you tremendously when you hit some kind of bugs, especially while you're pushing your project up to production. So let me remove the random part here. Let me just take a look that yes, I'm able to set up successful requests. And now let me just simply showcase that I can still access the data. So let me comment out the API one and back to the data one. And you'll notice that in a console, I still see the John. So just to recap, this is going to be treated as a fallback. So we're looking for the resource. And if it's not on our server, then we're going to use our proxy value. Now, in order to add it, we need to go to package.json. We need to go with proxy and then whatever is the URL. We need to restart the server. So in our case, that is going to be concurrently. And lastly, it is only going to work while you're developing. And then when you push this up to production, you'll have to figure out which option you'll take, whether we'll use React build to build this up as static assets and then serve them on the Express server. But if you decide to host them on different platforms, meaning the front-end application and then the server application, then you'll have to add some configuration options that are provided by your hosting provider.